Hello, fellow refiners. Welcome to another episode of Refinement, Not Retirement. My name is Tony Coe, podcasting today from the gorgeous Cotswolds village of Elmley Castle in England, where we always podcast from. I'm very glad after my solo episode, where I apologize to you all for our period of radio silence. I'm very, very glad to be back with my darling wife, Christine, who is here with me today, as those of you who are watching on the video will see. Hi, Christine.
Hello, hello.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
As though I don't already know.
Yeah.
So
good to let the listeners know that I'm good.
Yes, and you look good. You look really good. So this is
probably the tan.
This is, as I explained, or tried to explain in my solo episode. Christine's been listening to that this morning, and she said I was going off on all kinds of tangents. But she said, other than that, it was pretty good, which is
yes.
To get that level of praise is, well, gratifying.
Well, I think tangents are good, really, on reflection. I think it just it prompts you to, when you say something, to prompt you to say something else, doesn't it? Which is, I guess, what we do when we're chatting to anybody and everybody, or whoever's we're talking to. It and it's like that with on our dual podcast, if you like, you and I, when we're
I much prefer having a conversation with you than waffling on my own and feeling lonely. But anyway, of course, in my solo episode, I did explain that we've been away we've had two trips. We've had the trip to the Dordogne in France, which was a very big family affair. And then we went very quickly after arriving back from that. We went off for a month in the to the very place that we are talking about. We're going to be talking more about today, in the southwest region of Florida. So we've decided that we're not going to do an individual episode on that, since we are now in the midst of a series of episodes about our life in Florida, our 12-year period of living seasonally in Southwest Florida. We'll just introduce into our conversations about that some of the things that happened to us over the course of the last month. But this episode today is A Place in the Sun, Our Refined Life in Florida, Part 2. So
I was just going to say, why don't I pick up, because I've obviously just picking up from our last episode. Just going back that, and I think I said to you this morning when I listened to it again, how I still remember that feeling of waking up in the Ritz-Carlton the morning after the night before, having arrived in Naples to start our viewing of properties to see if there was anything we would like to purchase, and remembering that feeling of that beautiful sunshine and the dolphins frolicking in the Gulf of Mexico, and the white sand, and the sunshine, and of course that's where we've just come back from. So those memories, every time we go back, come flooding back, and it certainly is, and it always will be, which gets me a little bit emotional. A beautiful part of our lives, which haven't obviously gone away. Memories are still there, and we're still going back when we can to see old friends and talk about how we had our life there. And it's just lovely, just lovely that we created such amazing memories.
Yes,
in Naples, Florida. It's pretty fantastic. So it's really a joy to reminisce on how we came to live there, as you say, just part of the year. But it was a decision made very quickly, as we always do. And I think we've said that before. We seem to be pretty good at making decisions very quickly. We know what we like and what we don't like, and I think that's pretty healthy, really, and I think it's a healthy way of living. I think it's a healthy mind, and for one's body and soul, and it just brings so much joy, doesn't it, back into our feelings of when
definitely
and you have things going on.
Yeah, and going back there as we did at this time, we stayed in a place we've never stayed before, actually, Marco Island, which is a little island off the mainland of Southwest Florida. We're on the Gulf Coast, of course. There, the west side, and it's where we used to keep our boat. So it does have a special place in our hearts because we loved our boating there. And we'll talk more about that. We did a bit of boating, didn't we, while we were out there this time.
If you remember, what did I used to say when we went over the Judge Jolly Bridge, which is the bridge that connects the main road from Naples onto the island of Marco?
You used to say, "I'm in my happy place."
Yes, as we drove over, it would be the happy place. You could see the water either side, and the boats and the dolphins and whatever else was going on the waters there. It was really lovely, really, really lovely.
Yeah. So from our listeners' point of view, while we're enjoying ourselves talking about these fantastic memories that we have, the practical takeaway for our listeners, I hope, will be that our experience of buying a property and owning a property in Southwest Florida, a property abroad, a place in the sun, which has both its plus sides and its minus sides, and we'll get into all that, but also the process of actually buying a property in Florida. It was fascinating. I mean, it's been property has been part of our DNA, really. Throughout our careers, that's what we worked in, for helping people find properties, not as estate agents, but as relocation professionals, where we helped, we assisted big employers, global employers, moving their executives internationally, and of course that involved them in finding homes and schools and so on. So it's something that we are very experienced in. But we hadn't got direct experience of buying a property abroad, and there was some eye openers there. So where did we get to? You cue it up, Chris, as to where we.
Okay, so we got to that. We woke up that morning in the Ritz-Carlton in Naples. We had an appointment that had been set up by the gentleman I think we mentioned in the last episode from Sarasota.
Could I just pause you there, press the pause button on you just for a moment? Sorry to do this, but if you haven't already listened, dear listener, to part 1 of A Place in the Sun, Our Refined Life in Florida, please do that first, because you'll now know where we are in the story, because we are really telling a story here. So I would encourage you to do that. Anyway, I'm now pressing the play button, Chris. Go ahead. Yes.
So he'd set up an appointment with a real estate agent at an address actually, its address is Naples, but it actually was on the road to Marco Island, funnily enough, and
the 951 for people who know the
951 off the 41 highway, and so we had a bit of a longer journey to get down there, because I think, as I said, we were in North Naples, so it was a good old drive down, which we did, and we arrived at the sales office on time that morning.
So just to connect that to what we said in our previous episode, you remember that we mentioned that we had a real estate agent, because they call them real estate agents as opposed to fake estate agents. We had that meeting, and he came over from the US and met with us in our office in Kensington, and that guy referred us to somebody locally, an agent locally, because they work very much on referrals there, even across the whole country. And he was the one that set up this meeting. Go ahead, Chris. Continue, please.
Yeah, so we met him at the sales office of this gated community called Fiddler's Creek. On first arriving, the beauty jumped out at us. The plants, the sort of ambience, is that a word? Ambience.
Yes,
ambience,
absolutely.
Was just beautiful. And he took us inside to meet the Fiddler's Creek's own sales people, and the person we met was a guy called
Paul
what
Barrett.
was his name?
Paul
Barrett.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm just telling you that is because a lot of these new developments, and all of them, I think, they have their own sales team. So although we were meeting with another real estate agent, they will get a referral, won't they, if we purchase something through him being introduced to Paul Barrett. Is that right?
So the very act of simply introducing us to this particular development called Fiddler's Creek, the very act of doing that earns him or earns that company, that firm, that agency, a referral commission, and it's quite substantial. Just for introducing us, but he did nothing more that morning. I shouldn't think he spent more than 10 minutes with us, if that, before he handed us over to Paul. And you can continue that the story from there. But I just would say that Paul is probably the best selling agent that I've ever come across.
Yes, he was terrific.
He was absolutely fantastic. Anyway, continue, Chris, please.
Yes. So what he did is he started off by showing us a plan. You remember a model of the development and where the properties were, the type of properties, the lakes, everything sort of set out, and then asked us obviously what we were looking for. So they can control in terms of the budget that we've got, the type of property we're looking for, and then spend some time taking us to these properties and showing us what we can get for our money in each little village within the community.
Absolutely. So the sales office is actually just outside the gates, so that anybody who's driving along can have easy access to it without having to go through security. And believe me, security at these gated communities is fairly involved. You can't just drive in there. So we met him outside, and he, in considering what we were looking for, I think at that stage we didn't really have a very clear idea. I mean, we'd looked at those houses with bird cages on the back that we mentioned in our previous episode, and we had some idea, I think, that we wanted something like that, but we really had no idea what to expect. I think on arriving at this place, but.
No, we were total newbies, and we'd never lived in a gated community. But we didn't. I do remember we did not want a swimming pool. That was something we were very adamant about. One, because of the cost.
I don't remember the cost.
I remember it very clearly because we decided that they were. It was obviously it would be a house. They were much more expensive. It was our first time doing that. We wanted to be very conservative and careful with our purchase, and we didn't want to spend a lot of money, and we didn't want the upkeep of having a pool and everything else that goes with it.
I must say,
on a short term.
You've got a great memory. That's fantastic. So
no, I remember it very well. But so we were shown, I think to start with probably 2-bedroom condos.
Well, no,
I
think something happened before then, if I can just remind you. So a couple of things happened. First of all, after a conversation, a meeting with him where he showed us the model of how the how this development was, because this was in quite early stages of the development.
Yes, it was.
And how this was going to all play out. But the first thing we did as we drove through the gates, what did we see? First thing is because he drove us in his massive, they have massive trucks over there, don't they? Just massive cars. And he drove us in this beautiful big Lincoln SUV, and he drove us through the gates. And what was the first thing that he pointed out to us on our right?
Oh, the conservation area?
A massive alligator.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yes, I mean it was such a big moment for us, because
just lying on the bank, was it?
Yeah, it was massive. And if you remember, it was on the right where you look along the Mallard's Landing sort of area, I think.
Oh yes,
around
I know.
there.
Yes, I do remember now.
He stopped the car because obviously he knows people, particularly people from the UK don't see alligators every day, if at all. So he stopped there, and we had a sharp intake of breath. That was the first thing. What was the second thing he showed us? The club and spa.
Oh, I don't remember that being the second.
Because if you remember, that was their real selling point.
Yes,
the pièce de résistance.
Well, that was and is like a 5-star luxury Ritz-Carlton complex, isn't it?
That's the whole concept, isn't it? Wasn't it?
With restaurant, swimming pool, club, spa.
The concept of this community that the developer had, what his idea was to create a 5-star resort experience for, if you like, living. Retirement age kind of people, so that you had all these beautiful facilities right there within a few minutes of your home.
Yeah, not having to ever leave the complex, really.
So the center of it was this club and spa, which of course, and this is probably why we weren't really fussed about having a swimming pool in our home. It had a huge swimming pool, didn't it? Right, that was the
beautiful
centerpiece.
With waterfalls and bridges and the hot spa,
surrounded by palm trees. It had the Gator Grill, which was its own poolside restaurant, which had view over this one of the lakes, massive lake,
and a boardwalk along the side.
And it had also a fine dining restaurant.
Yes.
There. In fact, at the time, I remember it was considered a white glove restaurant. That was changed over time, I think, for the better. But at the time that we went in, it was very sort of upscale, wasn't it? And of course, there was a big gym, fitness center there. What else was there? You had, of course,
the tennis courts.
Tennis courts were there. You had the what do you call those things? Steam room, sauna, all that sort of stuff.
Golf club.
Yeah, golf club for those who want to play that ridiculous sport. sorry to all you golfers. Golfers never.
That's naughty, Tony.
I know, it's very bad.
People might say that about tennis. That's silly sport that people want to do. Tennis.
Yeah, but that is a proper sport, whereas golf, I don't think is. But anyway,
that was an amazing awakening. That was an amazing awakening in our lives, because we'd both been tennis players many years ago, and I
school days for me.
12, yes, and me too, from the age of 12. So that was something we'll go on to that.
We'll get into that. Yeah, I mean that was a big thing, because we wanted to have an active life. We were refiners, not retirees. We weren't at retirement age. We were in our mid-40s, right?
Yeah, we were.
So we were really, we were like the little kids, weren't we? As far as the community, there were other people sort of near our age, but we were very much in the minority. So you've got the centerpiece of this fantastic club and spa facility, unbelievably lovely. And then around that, the other concept of this development is various, what they call villages. Okay, so you had all around this, you had different villages, and these different villages had different architectural styles. So, and also different types of home. So there was a big range of homes to choose from, ranging from the smallest sort of condo, if you like, a flat, an apartment, ranging up to single family homes, some quite small and modest, others very, very fancy. So you had the full panoply of different home types within this gated community. So now, with Paul's help, we were able to start honing the sort of thing that we wanted to settle on, right? So you take it from there, Chris.
Yes. So, and also when you say about the condos, the flats, within those little villages, the houses that didn't have their own pools had a village pool. So you still had the main club and spa, main pool, but within the, if you chose a condo within the little villages, they also had their own swimming pool.
So the condos obviously couldn't,
just for that village.
Just to clarify, the condos could not, of course, have a swimming pool in the condo in the apartment. So those condos, yeah, I know, I'm really sort of simplifying it, but each of those condo villages had a village pool, a communal pool only for the residents of those particular village condos, and we'll get onto that.
Yes. So yeah, I can't really remember how many. I don't want to bore people how many places we saw, but we saw different styles and we saw different sizes, and we did very quickly hone in on a condo development called Hawk's Nest, a brand new property which was not quite finished, I don't think, or it had to just have its what do you call them? What do you? Well, when you buy something, they go through and do like a checklist, not a
snagging. The sort of snagging.
A snagging.
They call it something else, but punch list or something like that. I can't remember what they actually
like that.
Call it. But what you're quite right about that. Actually, it was ready to go, that one, because
it was. Yes, it was ready to go.
That one was ready to go. I mean, I think we got very, very lucky with that. But just before we get there, I just want to say how impressed I was with Paul, the agent, the sales agent, because he showed us all the villages, or nearly all of them, I think, and unless they were sort of way out of our price range. He showed us all the villages, and we were sort of developing in our minds what sort of thing we wanted, because we weren't sure. And every time that we would say, well, we're not too sure about this, then he would say, well, what about then that? Then you obviously want to buy in that.
Yes.
He had a very clear idea as we started giving him feedback as to where was right for us. And as you say, we ended up choosing this condo in that village, Hawk's Nest.
But actually, let me just go on.
No, I was just going to say this, because you and I, as we were discussing it, we said to each other, really, we're only going to come here for a month at a time, because that was our thinking at the time. We were an absolute maximum a month.
Yeah.
And we said, look, let's think of this like we're buying a sort of hotel suite. This is going to be a glorified hotel suite. So and really, it was such, at that time, God, it's changed so much, but at that time it was such a good price point that we could scarcely believe it. How affordable it was. And this was not a small apartment. I mean, it was way bigger than our place that we had in London, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was about 18, wasn't it, about 1,1700 square feet?
I think it was up there close to 2,000, and of course on top of that it had its own massive double garage, didn't it, underneath? Or was it a single garage? But it seemed like a double, didn't it? Because
but we had
garages are so large.
But let me just add because I missed out really before we actually contracted with that property, we did know that this was where we wanted to be. We then decided to move down from Ritz-Carlton because it was too far away.
Well, we made a couple. Yeah, you're right about that. We made a couple of decisions. One was we don't want to go anywhere else. I mean, this.
I was about to say that.
Fiddler's Creek, that was one. But the other thing that we did straight away was we cancelled our plans to go from there to Sarasota. Yeah, okay, you were going to say.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Okay. I was going to say we went away that evening and phoned up the agent in Sarasota and said, we're not coming. We've found where we want to be. Yeah. Paul Barrett recommended that we stay in a hotel nearer where we were now looking, which actually happened to be on Marco Island. So that was another Marco Island where we did stay, if you remember. We stayed at the Marriott on the beach, which was lovely.
Absolutely.
And we thought before we contracted that we should see some second-hand properties, if you remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Before we bought new, because we thought we need to have something to compare.
Yes.
Because we were slightly concerned about our decisions so quick and so fast, as we do tend to make them. We thought, hang on a minute, we need to have a little bit of comparing here. Now, I don't know whether we went off property and looked at something else, or whether we just looked at secondhand, like Fiddler's Creek.
I think we stuck to Fiddler's Creek. I don't think we ever looked anywhere else, did we?
No. And again, we were introduced to a real estate agent, if you remember, called Dave Carster, who did secondhand.
Yeah, he specialized in the secondhand market. Because obviously at that time, I don't know if they do now, but the sales office didn't deal in used properties. They only sold the new ones.
Exactly. Yes. So he showed us some secondhand ones to give us an idea, and it was a good exercise to go through. I feel, because after seeing quite a few with him, we realized that no, as our first property in the States, we wanted it to be brand new, nobody ever having lived in it. And it was the right decision, wasn't it? Because it was super lovely and brand new. And so then we went back to Paul and made the final decision on this upper unit. And we chose the one we wanted because it was overlooking a lake with a waterfall in the middle, a fountain in the middle, which we loved. So the view was so pretty. There also were alligators in that lake. It had a small lanai. I think you've explained what a lanai is, but this was just a balcony lanai with a cage on it with netting, because again, because of the mosquitoes and the bugs, you had to be covered in. But it was lovely, and a place big enough to have a dining table and a couple of lounges, which was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because you've just triggered in my mind, when this last month, when we went out to stay on Marco Island, we had a house that's described as a courtyard house, and the lanai, instead of being on the back, is in the middle. So rather on the style of what I would call a Roman villa. You know, the Roman villas used to be, what the idea of a Roman villa is, you had this sort of, not a swimming pool, but a sort of like a pond, attractive pond and courtyard area in the middle. And the accommodation was around the side of that. The various rooms where they lived and ate and everything else were around the perimeter of that. And this was built on that sort of basis, but it had a massive lanai. And I remember contrasting in my mind, and I probably said it to you at the time, that and our experience in France, where we also had a lovely rental property, a farmhouse, a huge place in there with beautiful view, etc., etc. There, of course, they don't have lanais, and we had a bit of a trouble, didn't we? Because although we had a lovely swimming pool there, we couldn't really eat outside because we were plagued with the most vicious wasps, and huge, sort of hornet-sized wasps. And I was thinking, isn't this lovely? When we were on Marco Island, I was thinking, isn't this lovely to be outside like this? We ate every meal, I think. Yeah, every meal that we had throughout that month.
Every meal, yeah.
Every meal we ate outside, and it was just so. I just thinking, so this is just so lovely to be able to not have to think about insects.
I know, and you don't think about it though, do you? I mean, I didn't even think about it when we went to France. Really, I'd sort of forgotten, and of course, we're just focusing on the family holiday and the pool and all the beautiful garden. But it was a problem. I mean, it was a problem especially for the kids. I mean, we were very lucky, weren't we, Raj? I mean, you and I didn't get any mosquito bites or any bee stings, but
others did.
A lot of the family were just coming up with lumps and bumps and bites.
I think it's because we drink I think it's because we drink so much alcohol, you know. I think the insects think, "Oh my God, I don't want this blood. It's unhealthy." Yeah, anyway, look, we're going to have to wrap up now because we've gone beyond our half an hour. So that's going to be it for today. But let's just remind ourselves we got to the point where this is the search for our property over there, and I think we're in 2002 or 2001,
2000,
or the end of sort of the crossover time. We can talk a bit more about that. And we've now chosen a property. We haven't contracted or anything like that.
No.
We'll talk about that next time and get into the nitty gritty of that. For now, though, dear listener, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your support. Please like and share. It helps us with the algorithms, and we love to get your feedback. So if there are any particular aspects that we've talked about that you'd like us to spend a bit more time on or less time on, then please, as I say, we do get a great deal out of your feedback. So thank you. Do go to our Facebook page, which is also called Refinement, Not Retirement. Good place to interact with us. I think Christine's going to be putting up some pictures of the house that we rented on Marco Island there, and other images that go along with what we're talking about. So it's a nice place to see some nice visuals, because obviously this is an audio format primarily, though you can see it on YouTube and on Spotify's video with their video tool. You can see us recording this as we do. Again, thank you very much. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.